Hello and welcome back to Joe's Math Tools. In our session today, we are solving a rational equation by finding the LCD. Now, in this example, we have two expressions in our denominator. So if you want to see how to find the LCD of these numbers, well, of these expressions, let's get started. So we are going to begin by finding the LCD of the terms in our denominator, of the expressions in our denominator, which is x plus 3 and x plus 6. Now, since we have two expressions in this equation, both of those expressions will form our LCD. And just like I always say, when you have different expressions and equations or whatever the case may be, do not work out your LCD, leave it as is. It will help you work out the question better in terms of canceling out the like terms. Okay, so now that we have our LCD, we are going to begin converting our fractions into their equivalent form where it is made up of both of these terms. So we're going to start with the first one, which is x over x plus 3, and this will equal to our new fraction where our denominator is made up of our LCD. So when looking at our denominator, we're going to be canceling out what they have in common. So we've got x plus 3 and our x plus 6. And remember that we are multiplying these terms, so we are going to cancel. We have the x plus 3 will cancel, x plus 3 will cancel, and then we're going to multiply our x to everything that's in the bracket. So x will be multiplied to x, which will equal to x squared, and x will also be multiplied to 6, which will equal to 6x. So now that we have found the equivalent form for our first fraction, we're going to sub that back into our equation. And now we are going to do the exact same thing with our second fraction, which is our 8 over x plus 6. And remember that we're changing it to its equivalent form where both of those terms now make up our LCD. So now we're going to look at canceling what is common to our fraction. And we know that our denominator of x plus 6 is in both of these. So we're going to cancel x plus 6 and multiply our 8 to everything in our brackets. So 8 plus x will equal to 8x. And 8 plus 3 will equal to 24. So we'll have 8x plus 24, and now that we have our fraction in the equivalent form, we are now going to solve our quadratic equation by putting our equation in its standard form. And if you're not familiar with the standard form or you don't recall, I will write it at the top of our page. So that means that we now need to shift our equation to where one side of the equation all equal, the other side equals to just 0. We have x squared plus 6x minus 8x minus 24 equal to 0. Okay, so my x squared will return since it doesn't have any common term. And 6x minus 8x will equal to negative 2x. And we're going to return our minus 24 equal to 0. So now we're going to factorize our equation. I'm not using the quadratic equation for this one. I will be factorizing. I remember when factorizing, the term that we're looking at, or the number that we're looking at, is our negative 24 And remember that with our negative 24, I'm looking for two numbers that are going to multiply to give me 24. But at the same time, I need them to be able to add or subtract and give me my 2 back, which is in the negative 2x. So I need two numbers that will multiply to get 24, and then when they are added or subtracted together will also give me negative 2. So in thinking about the ways that I can multiply to get 24, two numbers come to mind, which is 6 and 4. So now I need to see how can I work 6 and 4, where 6, when I multiply them together, I will get a negative 24. And then when they are subtracted, because I will have to subtract, they will give me a negative 2. And the only thing that I can think of is to make my 6 negative, so that negative 6 times 4 will equal to negative 24. And then negative 6 plus 4 will also equal to negative 2. So I know that we're making 6 negative. This will actually work with my factorization. So now that I have those two numbers, I'm going to break my negative 2x up into these two numbers. So that's negative 6x plus 4x minus 24 equals to 0. So now we're going to begin factorizing. And to factorize, I'm now going to group my like terms together. So I'm going to start with the first two, which is x squared minus 6x. And I'm going to pull out one term that they have in common. So one term that they have in common is both x. So I'm going to take out the x, and then x will be left over for my x squared. And then I have a minus 6 remain over. So now for my next term, which is 4x minus 24, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to collect a like term that they have in common. And they both have a 4 in common. So I will pull out the 4, which will leave me with x minus 6. Now I have to stress, because I want you to remember that when you are factorizing, you have to make sure that both of your parentheses have the exact same expression inside of it. The expression can't have x minus 6 in one and x plus 6 in the other. They must be exactly the same when you are factorizing. So now that we are factorizing, we're now going to get our second bracket together, which is made up of our terms that are left over, which is my x plus 4, and we're going to return that x minus 6 back to our equation as well. And remember that these equations are still equal to 0. So now to solve, x plus 4 is either equal to 0 or x minus 6 is equal to 0. So x will equal to either negative 4 or x will equal to 6. So either one of these will be my answer for this equation. So now, of course, we are our answers to make sure that they are indeed valid after solving our equation. So let's check our first answer, which is x is equal to negative 4. So we're substituting negative 4 in our question for x everywhere that it appears. Now remember that after substituting, you are going to have to simplify these fractions. So this is a good way also to help build up your fraction skills. So we're going to return our negative 4. And now negative 4 plus 3 is equal to negative 1. Returning our 8. And negative 4 plus 6 will equal to a positive 2. So negative 1 divided into negative 4 will equal to a positive 4. And 8 divided by 2 is equal to 4. So we see that x equals to negative 4 is a valid solution for our equation. So now let's test ours, which we got was x is equal to 6. So now let's substitute 6 everywhere in the equation where x appears, and then solve to see if this answer also justifies our equation. So let's return our 6. 6 plus 3 is equal to 9. We're going to return our 8 and 12. 6 plus 6 is equal to 12. Now let's simplify these fractions. So let's look at our first fraction, which is 6 ninths. And we can divide both 6 and 9 by 3. 3 is their highest common factor. So 6 divided by 3 is equal to 2. 9 divided by 3 is equal to 3. I'm also going to simplify the second fraction, which is 8 twelfths. And their highest common factor is 4. So we know that 8 divided by 4 is equal to 2, and 12 divided by 4 is equal to 3. So both sides of our equation are equal to 2/3, which means that my x equals 6 also is a valid solution for my equation. So for this equation, both of our answers prove to be valid answers, or they justify our equation. They were able to solve and equal to both sides. So, this is another good practice for your fraction skills, and also how to factorize for your quadratic equations as well. So I will definitely see you again in the next video. Make sure you get some practice until then, and remember those math tools where we make math easy.